welcome to March study, albeit in a slightly unconventional way, courtesy of the coronavirus. So we got myself, Dave, and...
Hi, I'm Claire.
And we're going to be looking at the second in a series of 6 lectures. The first one was last month. It was basically Sensei Daisaku Ikeda's writing about all of the divisions in SGI. Last month, February, it was the women's division. And this month, it's the men's division. And he's calling it, to my friends of each division, engaged in our shared struggle. And as I say, this is part 2, entitled The Men's Division, Invincible Pillars of Kozen Rufu. Create history and be victors in life. So I think it's fair to say that we've been on a journey with this lecture, and this is another part of the journey, not being able to give it in the way we anticipated. But I think it's important that we recognise that it's extraordinary circumstances and unprecedented in some ways, where we're not able to get together to study for the time being. But that doesn't stop us studying. And this is technology's way of helping us, I guess. So, I kind of was going to start with, I've been thinking about what, and it's interesting in the light of what's happening in the world at the moment, about what this lecture, which was actually a year ago this was published, and we've got the translation a year later, so we're in rhythm but 1 year behind,
Right.
as it turns out. And although it's written to the men's division, of course it's written to all of us, because so there is a specific and a general, if you like, points to the entire lecture. But what's really interesting is if you kind of strip it back to the 2 Gosho quotes and the message from Nichiren Daishonin and the message from Daisaku Ikeda, in a sense it's kind of don't believe or don't buy into what you're seeing or what you're believing about either yourself or a situation. In other words, there's a much deeper way of looking at things or reacting or responding to things. And for me, it's kind of the great attraction when I first met this practice was that kind of core message about you've got so much more potential than you think you've got. You know that your life can be so much bigger because you've got this amazing life state of Buddhahood inside you, and you can summon it out, any time and in any situation. And that really inspired me at the time to start chanting and to test it and to go for actual proof, as it were. And however many years later, that was 79, and it's now 2020, so quite a few years later. Can't do the maths.
41 years.
41 years, yeah. Of struggling, not all plain sailing by any means.
No.
And I don't think anybody would probably say they practiced a year that it's all been plain sailing. But we got this Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, Tuaga Honzen. We can draw out this lifestyle of Buddhahood, and we can change kind of our karma, change our reaction, our response to the world, or to whatever is in our lives. And in the lecture that we're studying, so at some point, Sensei says, life is a series of decisions. At some point, we choose the way of life of seeking the profound, working for the happiness of ourselves and others based on the great vow for Kozen Rufu. And this is how we are using our precious lives. What brilliant, truly brilliant lives of noble value creation we are leading. And in a sense, for me, this is all about encouraging us to make that decision, to seek the profound in anything that's in our lives. Anything is in our lives. And do what Mr. Toda called human evolution. So use what's in our lives that might seem to be quite painful, might seem to be impossibly unfair or difficult, and maybe we don't even believe we can change it. But I think what Nichiren is encouraged us to do, and Sensei in his choice of Gosho quotes, is to say, see it for what it really is. Don't buy into the, if you like, don't react out of your karma, and just, but actually have a different choice, make a different decision. Choose to draw up your Buddhahood and see it in a different way, and change it. Change it. So I don't know if you've got any thing to say about how the lecture has struck you, or.
I think for me it is that choice between reaction and response. So reaction is very much about your karmic, the causes that you've made and the effects that you're now seeing and the patterns that we carry on, versus this infinite Buddhahood that we've got, the potential that we have. I've always been afraid of my potential, and actually afraid of being too big.
Yeah.
My bigger self, actually. I've always sort of kept myself so contained, and when it has popped out and people aren't used to it, I perceive that as a negative reaction, when actually it probably isn't. It's just that they haven't seen it. So, for me, it's about having a choice. The practice for me is about having a choice. The lecture, it's about believing, remembering that we have a choice, and believing that the choices that we make in our Buddhahood will lead to the effects that we want for the future.
Yeah.
So the causes that we make now, trust is a big thing for me that I find very difficult. Chanting and letting go is very, very big.
Yeah.
I really struggle with.
So that's like a pattern that's in your life.
Not trusting. So having to organise everything in my head. So if this happens, I could do that, and having this eventuality plan of everything, because I don't trust that if I chant and let go, that I will have the life that I wish, that I and I will be able to live comfortably for Kozen Rufu instead of suffering all the time.
Yeah, and trust. Yeah, I mean, it's really, trust. I mean, really, again, this is no surprise for anybody that's practiced for a little while or listened to study or done study. It's about deepening our faith. So letting go, if you like. So there's a great, and I can't do it justice just off the top of my head, but there's this great thing in I think it's in one of the sutras, or maybe even the Lotus Sutra, where the guy is holding on to the branch. Sessen Doji he's called, and basically he wants to learn the truth of life. He wants to know. He's got half of the verse that explains the truth of life, and there's 2 more lines he hasn't got. And this big demon comes along and he says, I can tell you those extra 2 lines. And the Session Choji is like, fantastic, please tell me. Though he's obviously scared because this ugly demon sort of is around. And he said, but there's one condition, and that is, I tell you and then I eat you. So you have to give your life for the truth. And so Session Joji sort of agrees. He agrees, and so he gets taught the other 2 lines of this verse that tells you the truth of life, and then of course he has to jump into the demon's life. So he climbs up on this tree, and he has to let go of the branch and drop into the demon's mouth. And he's holding on. He's holding on to that branch, and then he lets go, and the demon turns into the Buddha and catches him. And I just think it's a beautiful image, because it is about, letting go of life. It's not dying, it's letting go of ego, or breaking free of karma.
Letting go of those patterns that don't serve us anymore.
No longer serve us.
Letting go of the toxicity, of the toxic traits that we have.
But it does take courage, and it takes faith to do that, because all our inclination is, my inclination has always been to keep holding on. Because the fear is that, as you said, it might not work, and that's even when I've had so much benefit. when I, even though, it's still, sometimes it's like, oh, Dave, why are you holding on to the branch? Let go. And
I could give you a blow by blow of all the difficult things and all the sufferings that I've had over the last, I don't know, let's just say 10 years. But they're so much easier to remember than the proofs, the actual proofs that I've had, the positivities.
Yeah, really.
So it's remembering actually all the times that I have shown myself actual proof, all the times I have let go, and I've seen the benefit and felt the benefit, and my life has shown the benefit. I don't remember them often enough or quickly enough.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
So that letting go is imperative, I think, and trusting, having absolute conviction in Nam-myoho Renge Kyo.
Because you're only actually trusting your own life. It's not like we're trusting anything else. So it's like, why don't we trust our own life?
Yeah.
Because we've been told not to, or we've learnt not to. And then Nichiren comes along, or practice comes along, we meet the practice, and everything gets turned on his head. And of course, at one level, it's like, yes, that's fantastic. That's so what I want. But then there's the negative side of it. Well, hang on.
Yeah, that feels uncomfortable.
That feels like, well, what you could be great. No. No. So it's that battle between the Buddha and the devil, I suppose. Not in the Christian sense, the devil. Because it is March, and I was going to talk about March the 16th, which is Kozarufu Day, which is the time when Mr. Toda entrusted the youth division with the future, if you like, of creating or achieving Kozarufu, creating this world of happiness, fulfillment, where the greed, anger and stupidity, those three poisons, are not dominant. And I was going to tie it into, I say was because, I was going to hold up a card. There's this fantastic campaign at the moment that the youth division are really responding to that, but also to the times. And they've made this determination at the start of the year to double the youth division by the 18th of November of this year, which would be 3,500 young people. And if you think about that, so obviously there's not 3,500 at the moment. There's half of that, 1,750 or whatever. 3,500, happy, vibrant, young bodhisattvas of the earth. How amazing. What an incredible response to these very challenging times, So, in a way, I was surprised that we've had this decision to suspend activities, but I wasn't surprised if I looked at it from the side with my Buddhahood. It's like, of course they're going to have storms trying to stop meetings and stop the student division meeting a few weekends ago. Of course we're going to have this virus causing mayhem, because I think the negative forces of life, which Buddhism summarizes as this wonderful character, the devil king of the sixth heaven, and Claire's going to talk about the 3 obstacles and 4 devils, and he's in there as well. Of course, he's going to be that force is going to be quite worried we might achieve it. In fact, more than we might achieve it, we will achieve it. Yeah. So it's like, let's throw all the obstacles and the devils that you're going to talk about in a minute. Let's throw them at them. So at one level, it's like, yes,
it's proof.
Shit is going to happen.
Yeah.
He's got to he, she, it, whatever you like to call this negative function of life that resides in me and you and everybody, and as well as my Buddhahood and your Buddhahood. And that's the battle. So we're doing this because we refuse to be beaten by him. We're absolutely 100% supporting the youth division to achieve this amazing target. And this is making a cause for it. I really believe that. So I hope anybody listening to this can also see it for what it is. It is bad, it is serious, but it is the devilish function of life, trying to stop people moving towards happiness. So unless you've got anything else to say at this point, Claire, I was going to say we read the first Koshu quote. Yeah?
Yeah.
Which interested me is from the Goshu called Encouragement to a Sick Person, which I think is very apt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you okay to read it?
Yeah, happy to, yeah.
Okay.
On page 2, yeah.
Yeah, page 2.
This, the Komatsubara persecution, has only strengthened my faith in the Lotus Sutra. The 4th volume of the Lotus Sutra says, since hatred and jealousy towards this sutra abound, even when the thus come one Shakyamuni Buddha is in the world, how much more will this be so after his passing? The 5th volume states, it, the Lotus Sutra, will face much hostility in the world and be difficult to believe. In Japan, there are many who read and study the Lotus Sutra. However, the upholders of the sutra in Japan are not yet worthy of these sutra passages. I alone have read the sutra with my entire being. This is the meaning of the passage that says, we care nothing for our bodies or lives, but are anxious only for the unsurpassed way. I am therefore the foremost votary of the Lotus Sutra in Japan. Should you, Nanjo Hyoe Shichiro, depart from this life before I do, you must report to Brahma, Shakra, and the 4 heavenly kings and King Yama. Declare yourself to be a disciple of the priest Nichiren, the foremost votary of the Lotus Sutra in Japan. They cannot possibly treat you with discourtesy.
Great. So like I said, that's for an encouragement to a sick person. Nanjo Hyoe Shichiro, I'm going to call NHS.
Right.
Not because of the connection to NHS says
Yeah.
in them, but I can't keep saying that.
No.
And but just prior to the quote that the Gosho quote that Klaus just read, Sensei sort of started his lecture and he talks about Mr. Toda, and he says about he was a model of a true champion. In his heart stood 2 towering pillars: absolute conviction in the Gohonzon and lifelong commitment to Kozen Rufu. So those really are the 2 main points of the entire lecture. And if anything that we would get out of this is to, deepen our absolute conviction. If you can deepen something that's absolute. But you know what I mean? It's like, I don't think any of us probably have got absolute conviction. I certainly haven't. And you just talked about it a moment ago, and the trust. And also the lifelong commitment to Kozen Rufu. And why these are kind of really sort of core qualities, Sensei calls them, is working on those, working on developing those 2 in tandem is the key to all the victories in life that we desire, personal and collective. It all boils down to that in a sense. I think that's what he's saying. So, he's chosen this Gosho quote to NHS, who used to practice a different form of Buddhism and converted to Nichiren's Buddhism and was a fairly devout disciple from the letters that were written to him. But at this time he's ill, and he's seriously ill by the tone of the letter. And it would appear that other members of his family, NHS's family, are basically saying, you know why you're ill, don't you? You should stop practicing this Nichiren's Buddhism, because that's the cause for your illness, and go back to practicing the Nembutsu, which is what he did. So that was the kind of view, if you like, from not from the profound, not from Buddhahood. Nichiren, on the other hand, offers a very different picture to the illness. He actually says, no, it's because you're practicing the correct teaching that this is happening. And don't worry, it's not going to be something that actually finishes your life. And indeed, it didn't finish his life. He does recover from this. This is just an opportunity for you to defeat the devilish function in your life, to do some human revolution. So on the one hand, you've got the karmic reactive view of the well-meaning relatives who are obviously concerned about NHS, and on the other hand, you've got the Buddha saying, no, see it for what it is. This is a devilish function, and I think it's very apt with all that's going on at the moment. The storms and the coronavirus. Of course, these have come out of, if you like, the stupidity of man in not paying attention and not being in rhythm and harmony with the environment, if you like. And Sensei says, and I'm assuming it's in the lecture, but I'll have to check this. Faith in the mystic law enables us to positively transform any illness or adverse situation, changing poison into medicine. As long as we maintain unwavering faith, we will never be defeated in life. So, really, what this is NHS is struggling. Obviously, it's life-threatening, presumably this illness, and he goes for guidance to Nichiren, and Nichiren gives him the guidance of encouragement and shifts his perception of what's happening to him. Shifts it from you're at the mercy of your karma to you can change this. This is actually a great opportunity for you to change. This is a great opportunity for you to be, to manifest your Buddhahood. And really, this is why this is this absolute conviction in the Gohonzon, I think, and it's also, this is the way that we're taught. Buddhism teaches us to change. See it for what it really is. So don't see it as being a victim of something or something that's unchangeable. No, this is your karma. It's your karma. You can change it, and then make the decision to change it. And I think, in a sense, this absolute conviction in the Gohonzon is the key, because we have to dig deep and deeper and deeper to find the confidence, the courage, the belief that we can change these seemingly impossible, intractable, karmic patterns or patterns in our life that just seem to come back again and again, or just get worse and worse. And we can't seem to change it. Yes, we can.
It's interesting because the difficulty that I've had with the lecture is also symbolic of the difficulty that I've had the struggle that I've had for the last year and a half with my mental health, and really felt like I'd lost myself completely last year. And Buddhist study in particular, is always the way that I find my way back to the practice. And so any time over the last 14 years that I've practiced, that I have suffered with anxiety and depression and really been struggling, the one way that I know myself that I will get back into it is by doing a study or going to a study or doing a study exam, that kind of, so really immersing myself in the Gosho and understanding Nichiren's writings, understanding Daisaku Ikeda's writings actually, and either helping someone or assisting or just doing my own study actually. And so when I said yes to helping you do this study, it was because I think I made that decision with my Buddhahood, with the part of me that knows what is good for me, despite the karmic patterns that keep rearing their heads. So it was actually a choice. It was a conscious response. This just choice that we were talking about earlier. To choose the way of Buddhahood, not to choose the way of karma, and to see what's going on for me at the moment in a completely different way, and find a way to make it good, to to heal those karmic patterns.
Have you sort of had any insight into what is going on that has caused you to suffer the last 6 months, a year?
Yeah, I think it's about. Well, this is my time now. My children are grown up.
Oh, okay.
And 16 and 20, and it's now okay. So I've spent the last 15 years, 20 years dedicated to them. What do I do? What do I do for me? Who am I? And the study that I've done, non-Buddhist study that I've done over the last year and a half, has brought up a lot of karma and this sort of mistrust of how big I can be and how great I can be, You know, when our whole lives we're told not to blow our own trumpet and not to be too big, not to be too loud or special or, you know, magnificent. Or, when actually we should be being all of those things. So I think it's about who am I? Who am I and where do I fit? Yeah. What's my mission?
Interesting.
That kind of, is my mission what I thought it was?
Yeah. It's almost like a re-evaluation of your life and your purpose and what you want.
As karma as a spiral.
Right.
Not a circle necessarily.
No.
So you keep hitting that spot.
Yeah.
It's just that sometimes it takes longer to get back there. And every time you sort of get back to that karma, when it comes back around for you to look at it, you look at it from a completely deeper level. And this is about deepening our faith and deepening our... That's what it means to me, is that every time I hit that karma spot, I may have done an awful lot of revolution to get to that point so that I can see it again from a different perspective. And I think that's what this is. This is about a total re-evaluation of me.
Also interested, just hearing you talk then, is I've been struggling with exactly the same thing you've been struggling with. So for me, it's the letting go of the work. So I'll be 63 in June, 18th of June, and I wanted to make the decision to start stepping back from the 5 days a week work that I've done since I was 18. But what was stopping me was I was scared. And I think, again, it's that lack of trust. But also that kind of confusion inside my own mind, if you like. It's like what I actually wanted to do. So, you know, so it's a bit interesting. Again, we've got this parallel. It's like we're both, if you like, a little bit lost because our previous identities are kind of breaking up a little bit. You know, you don't have to be the mum in the same way.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be a full-time worker, you know. So it's interesting we both embarked on this with this kind of shared question, if you like, or search. And for me, therefore, it's like, in terms of those two pillars that you talked about, Mr. Toda, it's like absolute conviction and Gohonzon, but the other one is a lifelong commitment to Kozen Rufu, which I think, you know, we talk a lot about, you know, working for Kozen Rufu, putting Kozen Rufu at the centre of our lives, and everything else will kind of fall into place. But if you're somebody like I am, and sounds like you are, that will strategise, it's not always the thing that goes at the centre of the life, as much as we want to, and we're not that we're anti working full time for Kozen Rufu, but it's like the practical part of our mind says, but I can't do that. I need to earn money. I need to do this. You know, I haven't got enough time or whatever. It's not about this selflessness in terms of, well, I won't work and I won't do this and I'll just do activities. Clearly, that's not what it's about. But it is about making that decision again. It's about making that decision. It's like, I am a bodhisattva for the earth. And this is my mission. You know, to propagate and tell people about the mystic law. Well, I want to work for Kozen Rufu. What does that mean? I don't know.
What does that even look like?
I don't know.
But
I really, you know, I really feel that that's really important now. Yeah, so that question. So I found it really very helpful with this thing to be boiled down to absolute conviction and Gohonzon, lifelong commitment to Kozen Rufu, because those are two kind of phrases or core qualities that I can take to the Gohonzon and I can think about, chant about, you know.
Because you can't have one without the other, actually.
No.
Because you can't convincingly talk to people about the practice. So you can't work for Kozen Rufu and talk to people unless you completely and utterly believe in Nam-myoho Renge-kyo.
Yes.
So if you don't have conviction,
no.
They won't believe what you're saying.
Yeah.
So you're not working for Kozen Rufu.
Yeah.
You know, and if you work for Kozen Rufu, no, if you have the conviction but don't work for Kozen Rufu, well, then, you know, it's...
Well, that's not Buddhahood either.
No, exactly. So it's this, you have to have both. They're absolutely have to be side by side.
You know, the very end of Gongyo, it's like the Buddha's prayer vow is, how can I make all living beings acquire the same lifestyle? In other words, how can I enable all human beings to become happy? Which is the lifelong commitment to Kozen Rufu, because that's what Kozen Rufu is, or all, but that's what it is. So if you, from a Buddhist life state as a Buddha, you naturally want to help others, not in the bodhisattva sense of just helping them like a doctor or a nurse. That's great. No, help them to find the key to life. Help them to open their own life.
Open their lives.
Open the door to their own creativity and their own wonderfulness, if you like, if that's a word. One other thing I was going to say is, please, if you've got the AOL, read it. It is a great lecture that Sansa's written. And if you haven't, it's also a newsletter, which if you get them on emailed out, and if you don't, there's somebody in your district or your chapter that definitely can add your name, your email address to this, because newsletter 10314. But you can hear hopefully a little bit of how it's inspired us and challenged us. We've definitely gone through a couple of stages where we thought we couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Where we didn't understand what Sensei was saying. Why did he use this Gosho quote, etc., etc. Why have we got to talk about men?
Yeah, and that's another thing that we share as well, is that karma around men, and how we've been able to push through that.
Yeah. And
actually, that I haven't even thought about that since the first time that we met to talk about it.
It's kind of gone.
So it's really gone, and that was because of your explanation that we are bodhisattvas of the earth, and they are genderless. There is no, they came out of the earth, golden hued and dancing.
Yeah.
And that really helped me, because actually this, just because Sensei has written it to the men's division, this is a message for all of us.
Yeah.
So it has no gender, and actually, so I can let go of my karma around that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, I moved on from where we started, several weeks ago, because I genuinely in the last few days, I've been able to celebrate and praise myself and other men for being men. And I can also praise and celebrate being a bodhisattva for the earth. So it's almost like reclaiming something for me. Because, as I said to you a few weeks ago, men have not got a great track record. Most of the bad things that have happened, most of the wars, if not all the wars, pretty much have started by men. And a lot of the things that we see in the world have been basically initiated or followed through by men. So, it's not always easy to be part of that gender. Or I felt in the past, but now it's like that's shifted for me. It's still work in progress, but I feel I remember I was going to say I feel happier in my skin than I've ever felt.
Oh, right.
And that's nice.
That's wonderful.
Happier with me, being me, with all my flaws and my foibles and my wonderful qualities, and being a man. It's okay to be a man, which is not what I always felt.
Well, it's interesting that the on page the where Sensei admonishes the men's division. I'll just read the quote from the actual. Well, it's not a quote; it's from the lecture. So, men, generally speaking, tend to value logic and reason. NHS must have renewed his commitment to faith in the mystic law as a result of the Daishonin's clear explanation of Buddhist principles. But it is also often the case that whilst logic may make sense, it does not always move people's hearts. And that we were talking earlier about that, although that's written to sort of hook the men in and then admonish them that you can't always stay in logic. You need to actually speak from the heart. You need to go deeper. That really spoke to me because of the way that I strategize everything, because of the fact that I use logic and I explain things, and but that's not going deep enough, and that's why I'm not seeing the actual proof that I want, and feeling the happiness within me is because I'm strategizing everything and not using my heart, letting go of all the strategies and just using my heart. And that really spoke to me, that part of the lecture, and has helped me sort of go past the fact that it was written to the men as well.
Yeah.
Because actually that's exactly what I need to hear.
Yes.
That's
that go logic and reason and trust your heart, trust your Buddhahood.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess that's very beautifully put, actually, because that is all about that process of the absolute conviction and Gohonzon.
Mm.
It's like, you know, don't limit the power that you've got in your life.
Well, just as a very little example, my daughter sent me a message today. We're quite strapped for cash.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't work last week because the car's been broken, and I sent her a message saying, "Oh, I got paid today, like something like £27, and that's it for the week." And she immediately came back. "Oh my gosh, you know, I'm sorry, I'm really strapped for cash. I can't help out this month." And I said, "No, I was actually sending you a message saying." You know, wow, it'll break the bank. You know, look how much we've been paid.
Yeah.
And then I said to her, which I've never said about money, please don't worry about it. It'll all be okay. We'll be fine. And it was, and I truly believed myself in that moment of, do you know what? I've got so much work to do for Kozen Rufu. I've got so much that I want to do to fulfill my mission. It will be okay. It will always be okay because we've always been okay.
Yeah.
And something will happen. We
Yeah.
will find a way.
Yeah.
And it was really nice to be able to message her and say, it will be okay. And actually believe myself and it not just be that placatory kind of like, they're there.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And it was that conviction that it
There
will
is
be
that
okay.
conviction,
And
yeah.
I didn't strategise it because I
No.
can't. Because I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Great. Shall we go on to the second
Yes.
quote? So this is what the actions of the voter of the Lotus Sutra. Okay, so the quote goes, "None of you who declare yourself to be my disciples should ever give way to cowardice. Since countless kalpas in the past, you may have tried to practice the teachings of the Lotus Sutra to some extent, but whenever you were persecuted, you backslid and ceased to live by the sutra. That is like boiling water only to pour it into cold water, or like trying to strike fire but giving up halfway. Each and every one of you should be certain deep in your heart that sacrificing your life for the Lotus Sutra is like exchanging rocks for gold or dung for rice." We are going to talk about the three obstacles of four devils. In the first quote, he was saying, see it this way, you know, see it for what it is. And in this quote, he's saying, if you don't see it like that, there's a danger you'll be defeated. You'll backslide, you'll give up. And if you do that, you'll just be holding on to the dung or the rocks and you won't get the gold or the rice. So I think it'd be a great recap, just talk about these negative functions of life that we're...
So the three obstacles and the four devils. Three obstacles are the obstacles of earthly desires, which are the three poisons of greed, anger and foolishness. The second is the obstacle of karma, and that's negative or bad karma due to committing the 5 cardinal sins and the 10 evil acts. Now, I have got a visual for this, so you don't have to sort of take them from what you're listening to, but the 5 cardinal sins are killing one's father, killing one's mother, and killing an arhat, which is a holy person, isn't it? And then injuring a Buddha or causing disunity in the Buddhist order. So it's very much about these. So obviously cardinal sins, we think of Christianity, but actually it is this terrible thing of killing or hurting or injuring or causing someone else or causing huge disunity within our Buddhist group. So, you know, real serious obstacles. So that's karma brought about by that. And then the 10 evil acts are physical, verbal and mental. So physical, again, is killing, stealing or sexual misconduct.
Okay.
The verbal is lying, flattery, which is described as indiscriminate or irresponsible speech. Defamation and duplicity. And then the 3 mental ones are greed, anger and foolishness. Again, the 3 poisons. So this greed, anger and foolishness come up a lot. And obviously the killing, the sort of extreme...
the disrespect of life, isn't it?
Disrespect of life, yeah. Absolutely. And then the third obstacle is retribution. and that's negative karma, the effects of negative karma from actions taken in the 3 evil paths. And those 3 evil paths are the first 3 life states. So hell, hunger and animality.
Okay.
So any sort of causes we make or actions that we take within hell, hunger and animality, the effects are this retribution.
Okay.
But there is a little side note which links really nicely into what you were saying about NHS's family, is that the second and third obstacles, so the karma and the retribution, are the hindrances of the wife and children or the hindrances of the sovereign and parents.
Oh, right. Okay.
So where his family were saying to him, you're ill because, you've given up the Nembutsu teachings.
Yeah.
Actually, this is the, if he actually had listened to them, that's exactly what that's talking about, those obstacles of karma and retribution.
Interesting. Okay.
So then the 4 devils are, there's a lot of numbers in here. So the 4 devils, the first one is the hindrance of the 5 components.
Yeah.
So that's form, so our physical form, perception, conception, volition, which I understand as like the compulsion of
To act.
Yeah. And then consciousness.
Okay.
So that's the hindrance of the 5 components. The second devil is the hindrance of earthly desires. So again, greed, anger, foolishness. So it's telling us, there's this huge, message to be wary of those.
Yes.
Then the hindrance of death is the third devil. So that's either one's own untimely death, which obviously stops us practicing, or the death of another, which causes one to doubt faith or to stop practicing, or lose conviction in Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. And then the final devil, which you talked about earlier, Dave, is the devil of the hindrance of the devil king of the 6th heaven. So he comes in various forms in order to distract from the Buddhist practice, which again links into this sort of cardinal sins of causing disunity. So basically, it's about being really wary of our desires, our karma, and things that will come up to hinder us.
And we've had some massive obstacles. So I think the other thing I remember is obstacles tend to be obstacles from outside of us, and hindrances tend to be things from inside of us to some degree. I mean, I don't know if it's just as simple as that. So so all of these can cause, as going back to the Geisha, he said, whenever you were persecuted, or whenever you were, whenever your faith was tested, if you like, you backslid and ceased to live by the sutra. You stopped practicing, or you stopped believing. Maybe you kept on saying the words, but you didn't believe in them anymore. So it's about that again. It's that conviction, isn't it? And he says, so if you do that, you can boil water and then pour it into cold. It's like, it's just pointless. Or what's the other thing he says? Trying to strike fire but giving up halfway. It's like, you're not gonna, you have to keep going.
You have to persevere in faith.
You have to persevere. And then he says you should be certain deep in your heart that sacrificing your life for the Lotus Sutra. It's like exchanging rocks for gold.
It says a little bit further down though as well that Sensei says, I have actualized every one of Mr. Toda's dreams and visions. I have lived on, persevering through all and fighting my hardest. So it's not about giving up. It's about just keeping going with the conviction that you will get there.
It's knowing or believing or having faith in the fact that you've got this amazing transformative life state of Buddhahood, that it's there, and also that you have a choice. I was thinking when I, so it's like, so this is going, so the first thing was about, doing, the invitation to the NHS was, keep going, do your human revolution, and you'll be fine. This is a great opportunity to prove the power of the Gohonzon, the power of the practice. And this one is almost like saying, if you don't do your human revolution, because it's always a choice.
Yeah.
We can do it or we
Yeah.
don't have to do it, and we can practice. And I know I've heard people before saying, they've practiced or I've practiced for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and I've not changed this. And it's like, well, a human revolution sometimes is bloody difficult, not always, but sometimes. And we have to make that decision to take it on. And I'm not sure we always do sometimes in a situation. We think we do, but we're kind of striking the flint, but there's not that confidence that it's going to spark. There's too much doubt, too much, well, I don't think so. Oh, well, don't want to do it's too scary.
Yeah.
I can't do this, or whatever. Do your human revolution, and you can change rocks for gold. You can have gold, and you can have rice rather than dung. But you could stay with the rocks and the dung if you wanted to. The choice is totally ours, totally ours. Nobody can make that choice for us. And however we think other people are making the choice for us, that's just giving our power away, because nobody makes the choice. We make the choice. We make the choice to suffer, we make the choice to not suffer. Well, sometimes that might seem a hard choice. Well, that's not fair, because it's nothing to do with it's the circumstances that cause me to. It's like, on one level, if you look at it, yes, that's true. But if you look at it through the Buddha eyes of the Buddha, no. You're giving your power away. You've absolutely got the power to change this in your life. You've got to want to do it, and then you've got to do it. Sensei says in the lecture at some point, he says that Nichiren is basically saying to his disciples that he's sharing this letter with, look at the life of a committed practitioner of the Lotus Sutra. And my disciples fear nothing. And Sensei goes on to say, the path of oneness of mentor and disciple, a central pillar, another pillar here, of Nichiren Buddhism, is a path for transforming adversity into brilliant victory as we forge ahead with unshakable commitment. So again, if you kind of make these decisions that no matter what, you will have absolute conviction and gohonzon, and no matter what, you will totally commit to working for Kozen Rufu in this lifetime. I think it just gives you a platform or a position to view everything in your life not as the cause of suffering, but the cause of opportunity for change. Which we saw in Nichiren's life, we saw in all three presidents, because they all had probably much more dramatic, life-threatening situations than I've certainly faced. I've faced my equivalent, but they've all shown that if you stay true to absolute conviction, gohonzon, that I will win, I will transform this situation, I will do my human revolution. And that is, as you said, inextricably linked to I'm doing this for Kozen Rufu. Then everything can be viewed from that position of like the eyes of the Buddha working for Kozen Rufu. So everything doesn't become an obstacle, which must really upset the Devil King of the 6-7 when he throws all this stuff at us. And we just say, well, thank you, actually, this is really helpful, because this is going to make us even more victorious. And it's like, but it's at the time when we're going through it, of course, it can be hellish and we can be struggling. And that's where it's great to have the support of, it's been great to go on this journey with you, because we've been able to share a struggle and victories, through the last 4 or 5 weeks, and the organisation. And somebody comes along and says, I've been there, we can get through this, or let's chant, or let's do a bit of study, or even just send you a quote, or text you a quote. It's just wonderful to just know that you're not facing this alone, whatever this is.
Were you saying about the persecutions that that Nichiren and the presidents have faced? Obviously, Nichiren was willing to sacrifice his life. Toda and Makaguchi were in prison, and Sensei himself, with his illnesses as well, being given a life limit, a limited life expectancy, and smashing all of that. I was thinking about, okay, well, how can that relate to me from a point of sacrifice? I don't actually necessarily have to sacrifice my life so much, or my freedom, or my, that or that. But what I can sacrifice is actually all my karma. I can sacrifice all my old patterns. And then that sort of made me think, well, okay, so who am I without the anxiety? Who am I without the depression? Who am I if I don't have those things and I don't want to carry them anymore? Who who can I be,
Yeah.
actually? And maybe I have to let go of those in order to make way for my Buddhahood. If I don't let go of those, I can't reach Buddhahood.
Sensei says so many times, this is not about sacrificing your life. The only thing that needs to die, in a sense, is our attachment to ego. And that's not to say that we don't, because, everything that Buddhism teaches, everything has got Buddhahood in it. That's the mutual possession of the 10 worlds, is everything has Buddhahood. So our ego has Buddhahood, of course. So it's not about ceasing to be Dave Williams or ceasing to be Claire at all, but it's losing the attachment or severing the attachment to the destructive elements of ego.
Yeah.
And it's letting go of that. That's the sacrifice that we want to make. And what we're being encouraged here, I think, is to, make that commitment, make that decision to seek the profound that we were at the start. Make that decision to go for 100%, to go for Kozen Rufu, whatever that means, to base our life on that decision, that choice, the vow that we made, when we were golden-hued dancing blobs before we incarnated and became who we became in this lifetime. It's the bedrock of that is to create value for Kozen Rufu. That's our prime purpose, our prime point, if you like, of faith. And that's what I think this whole lecture, probably a lecture we've ever had from an every go show, is basically trying to say that, make the choice, choose Buddhahood, not karma. Choose to work for Kozen Rufu rather than just see your life as a series of smaller choices around, well, should I do that job or this job or take that car or that, whatever. Of course, Buddhism totally in the real world, so we need to eat, we need to work, that's the way we manifest our we demonstrate the qualities of the enlightened state of Buddhahood, isn't it? I mean, otherwise we'd just go retire from life and be on a mountaintop. It'd be great, we'd be enlightened, but nobody'd be inspired or want,
And while we have this attachment to ego, or the attachment to the destructive part of our ego, we're looking in.
Yeah.
So, and that's, for me, I've just had this click of, that's anxiety, that's depression. For me, I've been so introverted, internal looking, for the past 18 months.
Yeah.
And it hasn't felt right, because that's not my natural...
Right.
I'm a joyous person.
Yeah.
So I have felt like I've been looking inwardly so much. You cannot do Kozen Rufu when you're looking inward. You have to be able to look out at others and see others and respect others and value others and cherish them. And if you're looking inward all the time, you can't do that.
Yeah.
So that's been a bit of a light bulb for me of that.
Okay.
Letting go of that, and those destructive parts of our ego is letting go of that introversion. I mean, yes, we have to be self-reflective and look at ourselves, but not at the expense of looking outward and seeing others.
And I think now I think he's in the third prayer, the prayer for the three pedicents at the end of Gongyo, and he says about for their selfless dedication to propagating the law, or something like that.
Yeah.
And it is selfless in the sense of they're not selfish. And I think when we're over attached to our ego, we are attached to the selfish part of us, not the selfless. So making that vow, or that vow, whatever the words are, to absolutely work 100% for Kozen Rufu. I've recently started in a way that I've not done before. It's like I told you the other week. It's like, Sensei, let's achieve Kozen Rufu together. For me, that's suddenly become a phrase that really resonates something for me, that connects me to Nichiren, to Sensei as my mentor. But also, I'm standing right alongside. I'm not expecting him to do it. I'm expecting us to do it.
Yeah.
Him do it in his way and me do it in my way. But together, again, as bodhisattvas of the earth. I was going to talk about the struggle as a man with having a mentor who's a man.
Yeah.
On one level, saying, I've got no problem with this guy, I kind of get it, I'm really grateful to him. But at another level, more hidden, no, I don't really like this. I'm not really comfortable with this.
Same.
And, and being a leader, thinking, God, if they find out how bad I am in terms of the oneness, they'll probably kick me out, because I'm not really that gung-ho about it. I haven't really cracked that relationship. I'm always kind of chipping away at it, thinking that I was, in some way, I always had the feeling that I was cheating myself.
Right.
I actually felt it's something like I'm cheating myself, not because of me and Daisaku Ikeda, but because the mentor-disciple relationship and the oneness is such a key thread.
It is.
And in actually in the lecture, he says something along the lines of...
Is it on page 7?
Oh, it might be. If you found it.
Is it the pillars come from the
Yeah,
oneness and mentor and disciple?
Could you read it then, please? Because I haven't got page 7.
I think it's the heart of the disciples is the deciding factor bit.
Yes,
so
it is.
Whenever I read the actions of the virtue in the Lotus Sutra, I am moved by the Daishonin's noble spirit and passionate resolve as he declares to the effect, look at the life of a committed practitioner of the Lotus Sutra, and my disciples fear nothing. The path of oneness and mentor, the path of oneness of mentor and disciple, a central pillar of Nichiren Buddhism, is a path of transforming adversity into brilliant victory as we forge ahead with unshakable commitment.
Thank you. Yeah. So I kind of felt like, the mission of the mentor or the master or whatever you like to call it, Nichiren Daishonin, Daisaku Ikeda, Mr. Todo, Mr. Makaguchi, is to just keep encouraging us to have this conviction and the Gohonzon, absolute, and to make this commitment, lifelong commitment to Gozen-Rufu. So I really have enjoyed my struggle with, and it would have been a lot different, I'm sure, if he would have been a she, because I would have found that a lot easier, I think.
But I share exactly the same struggle with Sensei being a man.
Yeah.
But it has there's definitely been a shift doing this study. Firstly, because you're a man, but you're a man who we share anxiety and depression struggles. We share difficulty with men, and so we share an awful lot, and also there's no coincidence that it was this particular study that both of us had to do, obviously. And it was, I think, my connection with Sensei is that link where he admonishes the men or the men's division. Actually, he doesn't. He just says to us, you don't need to use logical design. So for me, it's that connection, that hook in with Sensei that says, you do this, you do this, you don't have to do it, just let go. And believing him, believing Sensei when he says that, believing Nichiren when he says you don't have to, you can break free from this. So being able to trust a man, trust a man to work with to do a study, to trust a man to tell me that actually it's okay to let go of my logic, has been huge. It's been really, really profound. I
was going to go back to that first men's meeting that started the lecture off. So the men's division was formed in '66, I think it was, and they had their first men's meeting on the 16th of March, 1969. And and Sensei says to the men at that meeting, he says, if you don't stand up now, when will you? If you don't exert yourself now, when will you? How many decades do you intend to wait before you take your stand? There is no telling what condition you will be in, and then you are in the prime of your life. It's a precious time in this present finite existence. I say this because I want you to have no regrets. Again, I think for me and you, and hopefully other people who are listening, it's like, when are you going to make your stand? And what is that stand? That stand is for our own happiness, of course, but the happiness of others. And don't wait too long, because you might have regrets. And I think the one thing I'm absolutely determined to do in this lifetime is not to get to the end of life and have regrets. Of course I would have done things wrong. And of course I could say I might have done things differently if I would have been wiser or cleverer or whatever. But I won't have any regrets about working my hardest as a human being to try and help people become happy. You know, I remember seeing an athletics program where they were interviewing, I think it might have been the Olympics, they were interviewing a runner. He didn't win. He might have come second, third or fifth. But what he said always struck me. He said, I left everything out on the track so I can hold my head up high. And that's what I want to feel about my life. I gave it everything I could. And again, I think that's what really reading and studying Sensei in particular, but also Mr. Toda and Nichiren, all men as it happens to be, but Bodhisattva the earth, that's the point. Is they've really left nothing on the everything on the track thing. And they're just encouraging us to do the same. So, you know, make our stand. Find that life, that happiness, and help others to do the same. That's